Coming from the pool, we talked about the circulation of the pool. We use the bottom drains and the skimmers. That's what brings water from the pool over to the equipment. And all of these pipes in front of the pump, this is all the suction side of the pump. The way we do it at Premier is we do 2.5-inch suction for our main drains and 2-inch suction for our skimmers. So that's bringing the water into the pump. Now, one of the important things to understand is you have valves in front of these pumps. And these are a little bit different than most valves. Most valves, you have a pipe and you have a handle that's in line with that pipe. And when that handle's in line with the pipe, that pipe is on. When you cross the handle this way, that pipe is turned off. The flow is shut off. These are three-way valves. These are a little bit different. They have 3 ports. So what these valves allow us to do is divert water from one direction to the other. The handles and the caps are designed in such a way that you can't deadhead the pump. Deadheading the pump means you stop water flow while the pump's running, and it would create damage and create problems for the system. These valves are designed to not let that happen. At this point, I'm shutting off this pipe by turning this valve. On that handle, it says off right here. That off port inside that valve has a little diverter, and it goes wherever that port says off. So right now, this valve is shut off. We're only drawing water from these 2 pipes, okay? It's a little bit confusing when you have multiple valves like this, but once you play with it a little bit, you'll get it, you'll understand it, it's not that difficult. These valves, again, are equipped with stoppers, so it won't allow you to turn this valve around and deadhead the pump. There's a little screw that holds the handle down, just holds it in place, and it just holds it in place so it can't be bumped easily. So right now our pump's running, circulation is on, so we've got water coming from the bottom drains and the skimmer. That water is flowing into the pump basket, which is our second line of defense. If you remember, our first line of defense was the skimmer basket. Anything that gets past the skimmer basket gets caught in this basket. This is our second line of defense. So how do we clean the basket? The first thing we have to do is we have to turn the pump off. We're going to go to this control box, and if you look at this box, you've got a button that says auto, service, and timeout. Right now, the light for auto is illuminated. What that means is the system's running in automatic right now, and if I press any of these buttons, nothing happens because it's in automatic. That means we control it from our remote. So in order to clean the pump basket, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to press this button one time. I put it in service, and now you see the service button is illuminated. What that means is now all of these buttons will operate, but the remote will not operate. So now this gives us an opportunity to clean the basket without the pump coming on accidentally. We just take that lid off and we pull our basket out. And there's the debris that got past the skimmer and got into the pump basket. You can hose this basket out just to clean it out and get it quickly. If you have a pebble interior, there's going to be some rocks that are jammed into those holes or seated into those holes. If there's a lot of them, you want to take the time and get them out. If there's just a few like this, I'm not going to worry about it. As you can see, there's a lot of holes, there's a lot of flow that goes through that basket. Jandy has the largest pump basket in the industry. What does that mean for the homeowner? What it means is we have more water volume, which means we have better flow, less restriction, less resistance. This basket is the second line of defense. It also has holes, which allows the water to flow through this basket. It filters the debris before the debris would go into the pump itself. The open hole is what goes in front where the pipe comes in, and this basket only goes in one way. There's a notch right here, so when you set it into the pump, you want to make sure that that front pipe is lined up with this large hole for circulation, and this notch lines it up to lock it in place. To put the lid back on, you just do what you did last time in reverse. So we've cleaned the pump basket. Now what we want to do is we want to restart the pump, which means we're going to start our water flow again. And in service mode, we go to filter pump button, press it once. You hear the click, you hear the beep, but what you notice is the pump did not come on immediately. The reason this pump didn't come on immediately is because it's a variable speed pump. A variable speed pump does not use a capacitor, it uses a magnetic drive motor, and that motor winds it up slowly, which means it's going to last longer and it's going to use less electricity. If you hear the pump running right now, when you turn the pump on, it ramps up to a priming speed, which you set, and I think we've set this one at 3,000 RPMs. So when you first turn the pump on, it's going to go into a priming mode of about 3 minutes. So what it's doing right now is it's creating suction, creating a vacuum, and it's pulling water from the bottom drains and the skimmer going into the pump basket. As it starts to fill that basket, it's going to fill slowly, and when it does, it's going to purge that air, and we're going to talk about that in a second. As the pump's beginning to prime, it's pulling water as the air was introduced into the pipe, so it's having to purge that air and pulling that water, and it's pulling the water so it's filling up the pump basket to reprime itself. This pump has this basket on it. It's called a self-priming pump. Okay, self-priming means you don't have to necessarily put water in the basket each time you open the lid to get it to reprime. As you see, it's starting to fill the basket, which means whatever air we introduced into the system is being purged out of the pump. Well, where does that air go? Typically, it goes into the highest part of the system, which is going to be the top of the filter. So what we want to do is, once that pump starts to prime itself, we want to purge the air from this system, and we're going to do that by opening up this air bleeder valve. And you'll see it blowing out air, and when it starts blowing out water, we'll know it's primed. All right, so now we've purged all the air from the system. Why is that important? It's important because water won't compress, air will. These are new state-of-the-art filters. They're made out of polymer materials. They have a very large belly band. These are very strong, very well-made filter products. Because of the way they're designed with a larger belly band and the polymer materials, these typically will not have a problem compressing air. The old filters, the old stainless steel filters, would compress air, and that compressed air sometime would blow the lid off the filter. You don't have to worry about that with these filters because of the way they're designed. But that's why it's important to bleed the air off the system every time you open it up and introduce air into the system. As you see now, the pump's starting to fill up. We've got a couple of air bubbles in there, which is normal. It will eventually bleed all those air bubbles off, and the water will be so full that it'll look like there's no water in there, and that's a misconception with people sometimes. They believe that they don't see air bubbles and they think the pump's not pumping water. If I look at the pool, I see water movement, I can tell it's moving water. As we go through the system, water came from the main drains and the skimmers, comes through the pump basket into this part of the pump, goes up through this pipe into the filter, and goes through this filter. Inside this filter, you have 4 cartridges. They're paper cartridges or paper filaments. This cartridge filter needs to be cleaned about every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on your environment. If you have a heavy tree environment and you have a lot of bather load, you may want to clean this filter a little bit more frequently. But in this environment, we don't really have that many trees. Depending on how often they swim, probably 4 to 6 weeks is going to be average for the cleaning of this filter. Following the water flow through the filter, it comes out the other side, and we go into what's called our sanitizer. This is a salt fusion system. So what this does is it's a 2-part system. It's got a mineral cartridge, basically got a copper and silver insert, and as the water passes through there, it kills some of the bacteria before it goes through the salt system itself. The salt system is a series of blades or electrodes that take salinity in water, and it turns that salinity into chlorine. A lot of people think they've got a salt pool so they don't have chlorine. That's a misconception. It's still chlorine, it's just producing chlorine a different way. As we follow the path of the water, it goes through these pipes, goes into this valve actuator, and this valve actuator, sitting on a 3-way valve like we talked about before, this valve actuator determines which way the water is going to flow.